When I'm swimming through the water, I'm away from everything else. I can't cruise on my cell phone. I can't check the news or Facebook. I can't find out what terrible things have been said on Twitter. Not that I'm talking about anything in particular. It's just me pulling my body through the water. Swimming offers a wonderful opportunity to think. As I swim, I inevitably find my mind drawn to our seventh principle, which affirms respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. You see, there's always someone else in the pool. And I think about the fact that in this world, no matter how far apart we are from one another, we are connected. As I swim, the ripples I create change the water that other swimmers are moving through. Now, sometimes if the other swimmer is far away, it only changes the water a little bit. But it still reminds me that we have an impact on all the lives around us. We share a world, and we share water. The water that flowed in the Jordan in ancient times flows through us today. The water that rained upon the dinosaurs can be found in Lake Michigan. The water that you drink, the very water that keeps your cells working, has traveled through the earth and sky. We are all connected by the lives we share and the water we share. When we say we are part of an interdependent web, we are acknowledging that how I act here in Michigan impacts people who live half a world away from me. And nowhere is that more true than in how we treat our water. We know it is necessary to our lives. Water is also an incredibly powerful and sometimes destructive element. And it is necessary to life, not just ours, but the life of everything on this planet. It requires our care to continue to be a safe, nurturing source to that life. We know this is an area we must do better. As people of Michigan, we know the dangers of unclean water. We hear news stories about trash and islands of plastic floating on our oceans. We've heard stories about companies who take control of waterways in order to bottle and sell it in our stores. On Thursday of this week, the United States revoked a clean water rule that protected a number of waterways from pollution in this country. Environmentalists contend this will provide Americans with less safe drinking water and allow corporations and farmers to damage wetlands that prevent flooding, filter pollutants, and provide habitats for fish and other wildlife. The ripples we create affect everyone else. Today, as we celebrate our ingathering and our interconnection with one another through our ritual of water communion, I invite you to consider the water in your life and think about one way you might help to make it safer. What you decide could impact everyone else. Blessed be. Amen.
I'd like to point out that the special candles up here were not just purchased, but they were actually invented by Reverend Jen and Virginia. These are not, pre-assembled things. This work of art is their actual creation from bits and pieces they found. So I think that's pretty amazing. It's time for the gifts from the congregation. The purpose of this church is to encourage all who gather there to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith tradition, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will support this self-supporting church and its many ministries. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received.
For our time for all ages today, I would like to invite the kids to come forward. And you can self-identify, so. Anywhere you want. You can sit. Too many choices. Okay, everybody pick a rock. You want a rock, Monica? Want a rock? Oh, okay. So what do we know about rocks? Like, what is something about your rock? They're solid? Hard? Okay, put your rock into this bowl, please. Thank you. So what I'm gonna do is pour some water over these rocks. What do you think is gonna happen? They're gonna stay in the bottom. Any other ideas? Nothing? Nothing's gonna happen. Their colors are gonna get darker. That's a good one. Okay. We poured some of our water over the rocks. You want to get your rock back out? You want your rock back? It's shiny. Whoops. Sorry about that. I'll clean that up. So what do you notice about the rocks? Anything? Colors got darker? Yeah. Anything else? So did the water make the rocks smaller or change their shape? Good, you're skipping ahead a point. I like it. Erosion eventually will do that. So that's one thing we know about water is it's wet, it's very movable, it doesn't easily change rocks, but over time it can. We know exactly, that's how the Grand Canyon was formed, over time with water. So water can be very, very powerful over time. And how else do we use water? How do we use water in our lives? Drink it, water flowers, wash dishes. So we know that water is very important to us. We drink it, we need it to live, we need it to water flowers, wash dishes. So we have to learn to take care of our water. What are some ideas you have about how to take care of our water? Keep it clean, litter. Any other ideas? What about you all? If you see trash, pick it up. What are your ideas about how to keep our water clean? What? They said the important ones. You're absolutely right. So today we are honoring water by having our water communion. People have brought water or think about how water represents the important things in our lives. So I want to invite you to go back to your seats, and in a few minutes I'll see you again for the water communion ceremony. You want to keep it? Please rise as you're willing and able and join me in hymn number 1046, Shall We Gather at the River? We gather in community to worship at the corner of our year as a church. This morning we carry hope and love and courageous faith and seek to renew our covenantal commitments. We remind ourselves of the home we share, a home that we come back to, whether after a long or a short absence, a home we welcome all to make their own. A home of love and hope and faith. Come, let us gather together within. And we gather ritually this morning, carrying gifts of our summer, symbols of the water that we have been present with, and that which has been present with us. These symbols may call to mind light summer showers, thunderstorms, dewy mornings, and misty evenings. Or possibly moments at ocean sides, pool sides, river sides, lake sides, swimming, hiking, fishing, strolling, and who we were with while we were there, even if we were alone. Perhaps we found ourselves in the presence of water during a moment of grief, or birth, or rebirth, or perhaps in mundane places whose sacredness is felt nonetheless. We reflect upon what we brought with us to these moments and places in backyards and coolers, surely, but more so with spiritual, emotional, or other baggage we carry. And what we did with it while we were in these watery places and moments. Did the water inspire you with its serenity or resiliency? Maybe it's waxing and waning tides, the music of its motion, the silence of its sleep. Did you feel the interdependent web of all existence coming alive in those moments? Some of you may have had the gift of a momentary spiritual epiphany. Others of you, a growing awareness of how this very water is like the strands of the web, and how the web is us and everything. Perhaps the ties to spiritual companions throughout the world became clearer and clearer. Perhaps they bring to mind the monsoon rains that our UU partners in the Philippines and India know, or the churning oceans that other UUs know, the rivers and valleys of Transylvania or Lake Victoria present to UUs in Kenya. What brings these companions like us to the water? What brings the water to them? How glorious, how sacred, how peaceful. Let us rest and rely on the truth in a moment of silence. The water communion began as a deep ritual, one created in Michigan in the feminist movement within Unitarian Universalism, but which spread to our whole association. Today, we are engaging in the ritual in a way it has been done in our community for the last few years. We are going to return to remember water as an element. So I ask you to think about your water, or what water is represented to you, and what it symbolizes for you. We have these categories of sharing: sorrow, pain and sorrow, peace and strength, joy and love. So what does it mean to you? And then come forward during that time and share briefly with us what sorrow, peace, joy, or love do you bring with you today. Following each of the sections, we will sing one verse from Peace Like a River. And at the end of the particular section of sharing, I invite you to respond with, "This water is part of the living water that makes up our world." So we'll have sharing, the response, and then sing a verse of the song, and then move on. And as we start with peace, I am going to start by putting this water that is from last year's water communion into our bowl. We have in our community times of peace, of contemplation, of solitude. The waters of peace are the tranquil stream, the placid lake, the peace like a river. I call forward the waters of peace. I'll start. For these waters of peace, maybe, from a peaceful reconnection with others. What? Oh, thank you for reminding me. There is a pitcher of water available for anybody who didn't bring water. You can come and pour in a representative sample. And you don't have to say anything at all. You can just come pour during the sections.
Peace and gratitude and became both. Even as one of the destination of her motorcycle to walk the secret for a few days this summer. So continue with celebrations on a good day. Very peaceful.
I invite you to join me in the response. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. And our responsive music is verse 1 of hymn 100, I've Got Peace Like a River. We have in our community times of joy. The waters of joy and love are the rain puddle, the babbling brook, the joy like a fountain. I call forward the waters of joy.
This water represents the water from France that makes French wine.
Why would you put that under joy?
Joy of time and family.
This water is from the beautiful Lake Michigan, which I love. And once again, I was lucky enough to make a pilgrimage there
And our response is I'll say it and you can repeat it. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. Verse 2 of hymn 100 is joy like a fountain. We have in our community times of struggle, of pain, of sorrow. The waters of sorrow, the struggle of the rapids, the waterfall, the tears like raindrops. I call forward the waters of sorrow.
As most of you know, we had a farm fire in July. My sorrow is that it had to be there. The sorrow is that the fire trucks could have been there sooner. They weren't at the station. The sorrow was there was issues with the tanks and other things that aren't completely gone. This is a water bottle that Tony had that day. It's a lot smaller and it can have one.
For those without access to clean water. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. Verse 5 of hymn 100 is tears like raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like raindrops. We have in our community so many times of love. The waters of love are the deep well, the vast ocean. I call forward the waters of love. Well, it's last.
Held my impulses to go further. My family, as you know, I have a big family, and we took a trip to Alaska last year, and who could top that? And
And upcoming ones, right? Okay. Let's do verse number 3, love like an ocean. And we bless all the water that has been shared today and the water in our lives. And I invite you to do the response one final time. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. This water is part of the living water that makes up our world. Guided by love, secured by hope, and made courageous by faith, we gather together at a moment of beginning. Both learning and teaching, welcoming the injured and the healing, ever justice seeking, we bless this church with our love. With pilgrims and seekers, growing children and cherished seniors, guided by pillars and by leaders, we bless this church with our hope. Praying and resolving, trusting and involving, some settled, some evolving, we bless this church with our faith. Let us receive our ingathering as a gift. May it inspire renewed commitment to our great covenant of love, hope, and faith. May our eyes be open to opportunities for broad ministry within, throughout, and beyond. And may the blessings we come to know through that vision be a blessing to our world. Amen. Our final hymn is number 1074. Now there's a couple of instructions. You can, of course, use the teal hymnal. If you do, we are skipping pages 3 and 4. Another option is to just follow what's going on the screen. It makes it easier to sing, trust me. we who gather with open hearts together in this space today. Blessed are we, the chalice lighters of resistance, justice, love, and faith. Blessed are we, the heretics, the outcasts, the walkers of our own way. Blessed are we, the border crossers, the refugees, the immigrants, the poor, the wanderers who are not lost. Blessed are we, the transgressors, the trespassers, the passers-by, the cause-takers, the defiant, the compliant. Blessed are we, the hand extenders, the sign makers, the protesters, the protectors. Blessed are we, the friend, the stranger, the lonely, the hidden, the visible, the authentic. Blessed are we who rise in solidarity. Blessed are we who cannot. Blessed are we who do not. Blessed are we, for this is our beloved community, and this is who